All right, back to that breaking news in Oakland, where one officer was shot at 6:30 this morning. The officer transported to the hospital with the suspect is in custody. KTVU's Amanda Quintana is joining us live from Highland Hospital. Amanda, describe the scene there.
Yeah, there are a lot of police cars here, but it's not a lot of police outside. It seems like a lot of them have gone inside already. Of course, that officer taken here after being shot this morning. What we know is that that officer is in stable condition, but that is all we've heard so far about their condition. We also see that the chief is here, the police chief is here, and he is expected to talk in about 10 minutes. So we will be waiting for that and hopefully getting more details about the condition of the officer here.
Hey, Amanda, has the chief actually come over yet and talked to reporters, even off camera, or yet or not?
No, so the chief, we've seen the chief. I believe he's sitting in a car, so they must be getting ready to come and talk to us, but they have come over, a few officers have come over and said to expect the chief in just about 10 minutes.
And I'm sure a lot of Oakland police officers are there on scene. I'm wondering if from other law enforcement agencies, are you seeing others arrive on scene there at the hospital?
We've seen a lot of Oakland police cars and a lot of officers coming out of unmarked cars, but mainly Oakland police that we have seen. And we're also on kind of the back end of the hospital entrance. We're not right at the front door, so I'm sure that there are many other officers entering inside the hospital as well.
Okay, Amanda Quintana there live outside Highland Hospital. This is another live picture right now from 21st and Telegraph. This is where initially those shots were fired. The first report from 911 callers about an individual, 21st and Telegraph, waving a gun around. Officer responds. All of a sudden, the officer gets on the radio, according to her own Henry Lee, saying that the officer radioed in, said that he had been shot and injured, and as Amanda said, in stable condition right now at Highland Hospital. And good to know that Chief Armstrong is on scene right now, Garcia and Ali, because, you know, he hasn't even been chief 1 year. And I know any leader of any department, when they get that call that one of their own has been shot, you know, you drop everything and you're going right to the hospital.
For sure. I mean, and look, I mean, he's been chief for, 6-7 months, but he has long, deep roots in Oakland. He's been with OPD for decades here. And so often, if you see one police officer hurt, every police officer says, that's my brother, that's my sister. There is that fraternity that comes with law enforcement. So certainly we will be bringing you the police chief's comments live here. It's interesting, as we were able to get a live report just a minute ago from Henry Lee. Ali Rasmus, he said that he was able to sort of listen to it all unfold on the scanner, which isn't always the most reliable information, but just the fact that the officer who was injured was able to radio in for help, him or herself, we have to take that as some bit of good news.
Right. That's one of the things we always ask about in these situations when someone's been seriously injured. Was that person conscious when they were transported to the hospital? And by this officer being able to radio in to let dispatchers know that he had been shot and he'd been hurt, that is a good sign. But Garcia, you mentioned Chief Laurent Armstrong's long roots in Oakland, and it's not just because of, he grew up in Oakland, and he's the chief, but he has a personal history being impacted by gun violence. And as you mentioned, he's been out front and center talking about the need for more officers. So this is all taking place during a very heated debate in Oakland about whether to increase police academies, whether to add more police to the force, or whether there's another way to address the growing problem of violence there.
Looks like those are the microphones set up outside the hospital there in Oakland, and that's where Chief Armstrong will eventually walk up and answer questions, give a statement about what happened today. I know for this specific department, the words, officers shot, I mean, for any department, you never want to hear that. But, I go back to March of 2009 when we had 4 officers in Oakland shot and killed in one particular incident by one man. So, I mean, anytime that happens in the Oakland Police Department and you hear about an officer down, I think a lot of heavy hearts out there. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, as we look at these live pictures here, it's clear that that scene there in the Uptown District around Martin Luther King Jr. Way, Telegraph, sort of the 21st, 2400 block or so, is very, very heavily impacted, as we're giving you now sort of a much wider look at the scene. If we push in here, we see, again, a number of evidence markers there in the middle of the street. Again, this is a very, very busy, still very, very active scene. We sort of had the headline headline here, the fact that there were 911 calls, reports of a man armed with a gun. Police officers responded, and then one officer was hurt by gunfire. Our Henry Lee reported that perhaps one other person may have been hit by that suspect's gunfire as well. And as you hear Henry describe what unfolded after the police officer radioed in for help, Ali, you hear, police officers using beanbag guns. I think he mentioned they had some canines they released, sort of everything up to, but we're not sure if including deadly force, so we're still working to learn. And I assume the chief will tell us, Ali, if Oakland police officers use their weapons, as in their guns, against this man, but it does sound like they used sort of everything else available to them, which is something that OPD and many departments have been talking about, considering and making changes in the direction of in recent years.
Hopefully when we hear from the chief in less than 10 minutes from now, we will get some more information about not just the condition of the officer who was shot and injured, but also learning about what led up to this. It came in as officers responding to a call about a disturbance and a man with a gun, and certainly we want to know what happened in the minutes that followed. But again, any minute now we're expecting to hear from Oakland Police Chief LeRonne Armstrong. Right now you are looking at some earlier video on the right of your screen, it looks like, from the scene earlier this morning. But again, on the left hand of the screen, you see the microphones waiting for the chief to come out and speak. In the meantime, this is a view of 21st and Martin Luther King and Telegraph, where you can see the evidence markers out in the street and that large police presence that responded after this officer was shot this morning, Garcia.
And as Henry reported, when those officers arrived on scene, they saw the suspect, and he was running and they were chasing him. And you keep thinking, they may have had a clear opportunity to fire their weapons and shoot the suspect, but instead they just pursued him on foot to that building near MLK there. And what followed was, and you wonder if this is the retraining maybe that goes on in regards to all of a sudden you had, negotiators there, mental health team there. They could have easily kicked down the door, but I think, this may or may not, and again, the chief will address it, and I hope someone, asks him questions about it, but this specific response, is this all because of officers being retrained on how they deal with, armed individuals?
I mean, look, you talk to any police officer in the Bay Area or elsewhere, and they will tell you being a police officer is a different thing now than it was 5 years ago. Yeah. So, again, as we're waiting to hear from the Oakland police chief, I will mention a detail that our own Henry Lee brought us as he was working to get more information on this. He mentioned that the suspect, who's believed to have shot the Oakland police officer when he was barricaded inside the apartment building just about a block away from the shooting scene, appeared to be cutting himself. We do know that he was found, according to investigators, to have a knife with him when he was taken into custody. So I'm not a mental health expert, nor am I a police officer, but that might speak to perhaps the situation or the distress the person was in. It adds a whole other layer of factors into the police response. But again, if you look at the Oakland Police Department's Twitter account, which of course we do, OPD was very clear in saying our goal is to resolve this with protection of life for everyone involved. And everyone involved, the police officers, the subject who's at the very center of this incident unfolding, the people who live in the apartment complex where he was holed up, the people who are walking around in the Uptown District. It's a very busy, it's a very, densely, look, shops, restaurants, residential, it is all there for you. The Uptown District, if you're not too familiar with Oakland, is pretty much right between Lake Merritt and that 980 freeway, not too far from downtown, pretty close to OPD headquarters. Of course, this is a live look outside Highland Hospital, also close by. We saw a number of police officers lined up at the hospital waiting, of course, first to support what I believe is a brother there who is being treated for injuries. And of course, we are waiting to hear from the police chief himself as well, Ali.
And Garcia, you mentioned we don't know what kind of mental condition, health condition the suspect was in when this all unfolded, but we do know that Oakland police had to respond with some mental health experts and negotiators as well, because that man then barricaded himself in one of the buildings nearby. So a complicated situation, and obviously we're waiting to find out some of the details about how this all unfolded, how it was reported. It was initially reported as a disturbance, and as police will tell you, this is the kind of situation that can happen on the job every day. You respond to something that just comes across as a simple disturbance, and then you don't know what you're going to find when you get there. So right now, again, you're taking a live look at what the scene is at 21st and Martin Luther King. and the area of Telegraph, which is still shut down as police continue their investigation, gathering evidence after an Oakland police officer was shot. We will have more information coming up after the break.